if my math is correct, this is the 50th anniversary of the first time you hit a stage of the stand-up. So you're
Yeah,
18.
yeah, that's right. 19
Is this correct?
exactly 1974. Wow, I haven't even thought of that. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, that's how old I am.
All
50th of
right.
anything.
Yeah. So is that mind blowing or is that, it seems like it was
It's
yesterday. Do you
also,
remember hitting the stage first
I
time?
don't want to make a big deal of everything, but it's also the 65th anniversary of me learning to pee standing up.
Yeah. Well, that was my next question. So
Yeah,
you jumped
we
ahead, but
got that
that's
out of the
okay.
way.
And my guest today, he is an incredibly talented actor, author, stand-up comedian. He is known for his memorable roles in the Beverly Hills Cop franchise, Stranger Things, The Boys, Mad About You, and Aliens. He even co-wrote an Aliens graphic novel. He returns to his stand-up roots in the new special Life, Death, and Rice Pudding. I can't wait to ask him about that title. Big welcome to the one and only Paul Reiser.
Thank you. Life, Death, and Rice Pudding. It is available on all your digital platforms
All
on
the things.
demand. So like Amazon, iTunes, or your TV things where you can buy it and rent it. My sister called me
It's
up and says, I have to buy it. I went, you can rent it if you don't feel you can commit the full dollar amount to your brother. But yeah, America's going to rent it and buy it and watch
yeah.
it.
You can't send your sister a
But yes,
link. You can't send your sister a
no,
link to it or a
no.
screener link.
Here's the thing. I already did, but she's now I can't watch it on my big TV. I go, I can't help you. I can't help you.
I can't handle your IMDb page. It's ridiculous. And look, this is a big thrill for me. I'm a huge fan. I'm gonna look full disclosure right off the bat. Huge fan. I'm gonna try to tamp down the nerd,
No,
the fanboy. I'll tamp it down as much as I can, but I'm not gonna promise anything.
yeah, that's the only reason I'm here. Is like this guy is going to fanboy over. I said, because I don't call people who, vehemently hate me because that would be stupid. You should get on that. Talk to this guy. He hates you. Doesn't think you have any
Yeah.
value. No, I don't
But
do
then you got to
those.
work a little harder. You got to work a
Yeah,
little
no,
harder
I
for
don't
that.
do
Isn't
them.
that like your stand-up audiences? What if they come back and and all of a sudden there's nothing
No,
there? You got to
no.
work a little harder, right?
Well, here's the thing. If they even as a stand-up, I've always had this thing of, look, this is not important. So if you don't want to do this, we can skip it. I swear to God, I have no stake, no horse in this race. Like,
Right.
it's not like we got to do this.
No, we're not curing
So
cancer. We're not
yeah,
solving
so
world
like if you
problems.
don't want to, I don't need to be here. I've been to places I don't want to watch people. I get it. I'm happy to be
I
that
think
guy.
those are my favorite comedians, like you, Seinfeld, Letterman. Like, I don't need to be here. I
Yeah.
don't have to do this.
Well, not no, I don't mean no, I don't mean it. I don't have to be here because I'm such a big shot. I mean,
Right.
like this is I'm not saying anything that's important. In fact, literally the
Right.
opening line of my stand-up special is I tell the audience, it's a packed theater. I said, I got things to tell you, none of which are important. Because I like
Yeah.
to establish the bar
Right.
up front. Don't think we're gonna solve.
No, put the bar on the floor and I'll just step over it as needed.
There you
But look,
go.
isn't that the most important thing right now? Is just like, can't we just take a couple hours or an hour and a half, whatever the stand up is? Can't we just
Yes.
just turn our brains off for a
Yeah.
little from all the anxieties, regardless of one way? Can't we just and talk about some stuff that we all have in common?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's funny? I mean, I literally started saying that line at the top of my show because I was feeling very self-conscious. I go, God, there's just so much going on, and there's such tension, and there's such problems. And when I'm going to sit here and talk about this funny conversation I had with my wife or my
Yeah.
kid or my doctor, or
Or
like
piles of
this
stuff
is
in my house or something, right?
yeah, this is not as important stuff. So I kind of like want to at least acknowledge, like, I don't live in a vacuum. I'm well aware there's things going on. But
Yes.
to my surprise, so I would just, I wrote a little sentence or two to say that. And what I found is the audience would applaud. I go, like, thank you. Oh, and like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, I was kind of kidding, but we do need that. Can
Well, I
we? I
was going
mean,
to say, in an ironic way, isn't that important?
in an ironic way, yeah. You don't want to. I don't want to, stake any great claim, and like I'm doing the public service here.
Right.
I would have been doing this anyway, but yeah.
Fair.
And I know as a consumer of content, if you will, like
Yes.
I avoid the things that if I'm not in the mood to be pushed or challenged or to see what's going on, I haven't watched the news in a week. I just yeah, I don't want to. I know what happened. I don't want
Yeah.
to look it in the
You
face.
are
So
aware of things in the
I'm
world, but
aware.
you don't necessarily need to be consumed by the things of the world.
I don't need to spend all my time, and in fact, medicinally and therapeutically, I need to specifically uh, um, curate what comes into my brain right now.
I hope
So,
so much you're
it
coming to
makes me very
Columbus,
happy.
Ohio.
Oh,
No, I hope you're coming to Columbus, Ohio, because my wife and I could use about an hour and a half
okay, done.
of just downtime on that. So much to talk about. Let's start in Ireland.
Go.
The Problem with People is the new movie. This thing's look, it looks beautiful. It's my wife and I watched it. It's very funny. It is a nice little detour into some
Well,
some interesting comedy, some interesting individuals. But this thing's been percolating for a little while with you,
yes.
hasn't it?
I'm sorry, but you've seen the film or you just saw the
I've seen
show?
the film. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay,
saw the
cool.
film. Yeah, we both
So,
watch it.
yeah, the film has been percolating, and it started sort of backwards. I didn't have a story or an idea. I just wanted to go to Ireland. I wanted to make a movie in Ireland. I had been to
Okay.
Ireland years ago, and I just loved it. And I thought, I just love movies that take place there. I just love the idea of what's going on there. And so I came up with this story, and I wrote it with a buddy of mine. And sort of as we were forming it, we ended up going, okay, now it's a story. It's about two relatives who've never met, but their grandfathers had a fight. And now the Americans don't talk to the Irish don't talk to the Americans. So I thought, well, now that's a funny story. There's fiction. I mean, there's friction. But we sort of stumbled onto, oh, if you don't look too close, it's actually about something kind of important. It's how do civilized people resolve conflicts? Why is it so hard? What is the problem with people? Hence the title. And so, yes, so the movie starts with his 90-year-old father watching the news, and it's one combat, after another and warring
It's the
parties.
news.
It's the news, and it's everybody. Why is everybody
Yeah.
fighting? And they realizes, we're no better. And I thought, okay, that's a fun writing task to take
Right.
something big and that has a heart and a point, but you encase it in comedy. And so what you're really watching is two idiots who were well intended, who were trying to get along. They got together just to bury the hatchet, and they
Yeah.
can't stop tripping over their own worst instincts. That to me is
You're not
funny.
good. You're not like amazing individuals. It's not like either one of you has
No, we're just
you're
trying
both
like,
like goofballs. Yeah.
and he said, "Come over and we'll put an end to this, thing. If you ever find
Yeah.
yourself in Ireland, we'll raise a pint in friendship."
Right.
Okay, well,
Right.
that sounds nice. And then it goes bad because we're flawed people, all of us.
Right.
And
Well, that's the thing. I
so,
thought where I'm watching this, I thought, oh, Paul Reiser's going to come in and do his Paul Reiser thing and then it's like, oh no, he's just as much of a goofball as Colm Meaney.
I'd like to know what the Paul Reiser thing is you thought I was going to do. What would that be?
I thought it was going to be like you trying to win him over, and it was like it seemed like there was something
Uh huh.
redeeming about this character, and then all of a sudden it's like no, he's just kind of like the other thing, and it's like the problem with people. It's like people are
Yes.
people; they're going to do this thing, but a bunch. Look, spoiler alert. We get
No,
to the
but you
end, but
know what? No,
whatever.
I will say he started. I came over in good
He
faith.
did say that's
He
fair.
started the problem. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
That's fair. No, that's fair. You and Colm Meaney make a terrific odd couple. My audience definitely familiar with his work in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I'm guessing you are completely familiar with his work in Star Trek Deep Space Nine because you are a huge science fiction fan,
Yes.
huge
Yes.
comic book fan, huge
Yes.
nerd pop culture fan.
You got me
I'm
pegged.
teasing.
You got me
Yeah,
pegged. I've
that's
never
not your
seen
bag,
one.
is
I've
it?
never seen a Star Trek. I've never seen the Star Wars.
I've read your Mad About You co-star Helen Hunt. She busts your chops for never having seen a Star Wars fan.
Yes. Literally the day every Star she would be out the first day, and I go, I've never seen one, and she just looked at me. She said, "I've never met you in my life. I don't know who you are,
Right.
and I
Who
don't know
are
what
you?
kind of world you live."
Right.
Um, so
Right.
yes, so so that's what the problem with Paul is. Mike Speed. I
Right.
like small two doing that about you. It was a two-hander. It was two people.
Yeah.
They love each other. They're both
Right.
flawed. It's similar. Like nobody's perfect. And the fun of Mad About You was it wasn't she's sane and he's crazy, or he's neurotic and she's no, they're both
Right.
everything luckily in alternating moments, which is why marriages succeed when they do. It's like you can't both be crazy today. One of you has to be, one of you has to drive. One of you has to
Right.
make a decision here. And so
I think that's why
luckily,
my wife and I tapped so hard into that show was I think it premiered like a couple of years after we were married. So we were kind of in
okay,
the same boat as Paul and
yeah.
Jamie. And it was like, yeah, it was amazing. All right. Well, you're in one of the greatest sci-fi films of all time. We've established you're not a huge fan of the science fiction genre, but Have you even seen Aliens?
I saw Alien, the first one when it came out, and loved it.
First,
Johnny
right,
Weaver.
right.
And then I got the script for Aliens, and I couldn't believe that I was even being considered because I read it. And well, it was the most exciting, breathtaking read. You don't
Right,
generally read a script and on the edge of your seat, like, and read like a movie, like you were seeing it. And
right.
so I knew that was going to be a huge hit. What I didn't in any way anticipate is that
Okay.
38 years later, there'd be conventions where people, I just did one this weekend in Philadelphia, where people are coming, thousands of people coming with, memorabilia and the guns and the stuff and the egg and like people watch this movie continue and it still holds up. It's still great. I just didn't anticipate that it would have the life that it has,
Yeah.
or the place that it's had in people's lives. So the comic book was really an interesting thing. My buddy, a producing partner, he came and he always approaches me very carefully and tentatively. He goes, "All right, you're going to hate this because I generally it has to be really good. I usually, most things I cringe and then I go, that's actually not bad." He said,
Okay.
you're going to hate this, but please listen. Ready? Here's an idea for a TV show. Burke lives. I said, that's brilliant. That's really funny.
Okay.
I love it. So he pitched it to me as an idea for a TV show. And then it came about because he was talking to Adam Goldberg. Adam Goldberg created the Goldbergs, and he's a
Right.
huge aliens fan. And he jumped on board. And and the a little aside, for years, people would go, "What was it like in Aliens? You playing a bad guy?" And I always joke, "Well, you say bad guy, I say misunderstood." That was my little
Okay.
joke. He was actually an okay guy. So Adam, sight unseen on his own, said, and he pitched this story to me that if Burke had lived, here's what if? What if the reason he was trying to bring back the alien, it was because of a very noble reason, and you'll read it in the comic book. And it turns out it wasn't just nothing; it was actually really good reason, and it was actually very well intended. I
Yeah.
said, I've been saying that for 35 years. So I said, well, this is great. And it was pitched to me. He said, picture the office in space. Like for 35 years, Burke, he screwed up and
Wow.
he has been delegated to like the worst planet in the universe, a desk job, because he's just, persona non grata back on Earth. I said, that's really funny. And then somehow and they brought it to Marvel and Disney, because everybody's all this Disney and Fox,
They own
they own everything.
everything. They own it. Disney
And they
owns
said, well,
everything,
what
right?
if we did it as a comic book first? I said, well, that's really funny because, you get that audience.
Well,
So,
let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there because you said let's do this as a comic book first. And
mm-hmm,
I want to tap into that word right there
first.
because you said it was pitched as a TV show. You're this stage of the game, you guys are thinking of comic book, but like a phase one, a starting point.
Well, listen, I have been doing this long enough to know that very few things that you come up with actually happen. It's just,
Right. Wait
I
till the
mean,
check clears.
yeah, and even then, well, the check clear, but we didn't put it on.
Yeah.
So it's just the law of averages. It's most things don't get made. So you indulge them and you
Okay.
say, where this goes, let's take it.
Okay.
So I thought it would be, I couldn't quite see the show, but I love the idea of it. I thought it's really funny. The office in
Okay.
space, because by the way, you're not shooting it on location in space. It's going to look like Earth. And
It's
then
in a
when they said a
right.
comic book, and I think the thinking there was, there's such an audience out there for aliens. The comic books, you bring that audience, it'll have some wind behind its back. So
Yeah.
that was sort of the businessy decision, and I thought that's great. And it also meant, well, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to be in a comic book, so we can
You
delay the
did
part.
co-write it though, right? You did
Well,
add to it
so they
because there's a lot of Paul Reiserisms in the comic.
yes. So in
Okay.
fairness, and I have to, in all modesty, all honesty, not modesty, um, the heavy lifting was done by Adam Goldberg and his partner Hans Rodionoff, who's really done a lot of work in comic books. And then when it started, I said, my son, who had been out of college, he did about a year and a half of college. I said, this is not for me, and he hadn't really found himself. And I said, he really knows comic books, or
Is
I
your
think
son
it does.
Leon?
My son Leon,
Yeah.
and he was like 22. I said, could he just be involved? And I in my head, like, can he just stand over the shoulders while the guys are drawing because he loves to draw and he's really studying that. And that's what I thought. And the answer came back, no, Marvel doesn't have people stand over their shoulders. These guys, they work alone. Thank you. but Adam said, but if he's interested in writing, we'd love to meet him. So I said,
Wow.
whatever. So I said, well, go meet them. So Leon had a meeting with Adam and Hans, and then Adam calls me and he said, "All right, I'm going to tell you this, father to father, your son is like really freaking brilliant. Do you know that?"
Yeah.
I went, "I kind of thought so, but really?" He said, "He knows more about comic books. He goes, he knew every like alternate world and like how to
He's
Marvel,
the opposite
DC,
of Paul Reiser
the
growing up.
opposite of me. If you balance us off,
Yes.
we're about normal."
Yeah, but the
So
hair is still
but
perfect from the 80s. His hair is
yeah,
exactly yours, which I think is why he can play you, but go ahead.
no, but he has that knowledge and he's really creative. And I used to joke, it's like, I think I can't even remember if this is in the special or not, but I joke about, I have two sons, one of whom I don't care for. But then I explained, but the reason I don't care for him, I said, and I think you will understand, the reason I don't care for him is he's funnier than me. And that irks me. I said, because he
Yeah.
don't even work at it. He just wakes up and he's funny. And he's really
Wow.
funny. And so they were happy. They said he's really creative. He really knows his world. And so my contributions, as limited as they were like really only
Okay.
on the dialogue for Burke. And I had a couple of
Okay.
things. So I would a couple of things. They would run it all past me. They pitch the stories, and I said, well, maybe this, maybe that. But I literally, if you put a gun to my head, I couldn't write a comic book or a thing. I
Right.
just don't think that way. But a guy like Burke stuck in that world might say the wrong. So Leon, I said, he's going to be the perfect Paul whisperer because he can tell
Okay.
them. I think it'd be funny if Dad says this, and he would come back to me and goes, "Okay, what this means is," he would explain to me the minutia and the inner
Right.
workings of the world, the universe, which I couldn't understand. So he was the perfect point person. So so even without my help, he was actually channeling my sense of humor.
Definitely a riser cadence to it. Like
Yeah,
there's like, and you know what that means. Everybody knows.
it's
I mean,
more
we've
it's
seen
more
you
him.
stand
It's
up.
more him than me. I mean,
Okay,
I've
so
known a
he's seen
couple of things.
enough of you and your performances to bring those. Because
Yeah, it's
as
not a
I'm reading
performance.
it,
It's
I can
just
hear. Well,
yeah.
I can hear your voice in it. And as a comic book fan, I know you're not, but I am obviously, and many people listening to this are. But when you can hear the voice of the actor
Yeah.
jump off the page,
Yes.
it locks us in. And I think
Sure.
that's a sort of a combo platter between
and
you and your son,
and
which is
and this is
amazing.
a character that actually had existed on film, so you could, and you would
Right.
know. But what was
Right.
interesting, there was one point, um, the process was, and I would run it past me, and I would think to offer, and I would look at dialogue, but I was to look at it as an actor, and I go, yeah, I don't know if I would say it like that. That sounds like a lot of exposition, and then I would go, you're not going to say it. It's going to be typed up in a little dialogue bubble,
Right.
and it's a comic book. It's not live action, and I went,
Yeah.
right. So you could talk technological stuff or
Yes.
exposition. It's okay. It's a comic book. So I had to really adjust to that. But and then at every stage they would send a script, and it looks different. A comic book script is
Right.
doesn't look like I'm used to reading, and so sometimes they would send a script, and no, Leon co-wrote the end of the five, and he solo wrote the five, but worked obviously working with Adam and Hans. So there was one point they would send a script. I forget, it was like maybe the third or fourth one, and they go, "Here's the script," and they send it to me and Leon, and we would each pitch. I go, I pitched, and I would only pitch on my dialogue, and I
Right.
had
Right.
maybe in this case 10 suggestions. And Leon came to me. He goes, "Before I send it to them, can I show them to you?" And he had like 30, and they were. I go, "These are all good. These are really good." And a couple of them were the same ones not the same ones, but they were,
Wow.
his take on the same lines that I had tried to do, that I had made a suggestion. I said, I'm not going to nix. I said, let's both send them in, and they'll pick. They're in charge.
Right.
They're execs on this. They'll pick it. So that was the only second time that Adam. All our communications were always in tandem. The four of us. No emails were private, no phone calls. But it was the only time Adam called me. He said, "Listen, uh, I know we're writing this for Paul Reiser, and we love Paul Reiser, and it's based on a character for Paul Reiser that Paul Reiser created. Having said that, your son's lines were funnier." I went, I know. And he said, "I assume as a dad,
They're
you'll be
good.
proud." I said, "I couldn't be happier."
They're
But
good.
I said, I told him that. I said, yeah, go with his. They're funnier.
Yeah,
Um,
I had to tear in all five issues. They're amazing. Give me the pronunciation here. Giu Villanova. Giu Villanova is the artist on the
you know
book.
what? I'm not sure how I pronounce it. Jiao? Is it Jiao? I think
João
Jiao is what
Villanova. So when
I
there's
think
coming
so.
back, because it flashes back to 86 Burke, it flashes forward to current day Burke. When you saw the artwork coming,
Well, it's
I
so
think you're
funny.
already answering my question before I
Well, I was
ask it.
reading the beginning. I was looking. I go, I look great.
Yeah,
And
I
then
look like
you know,
Burke with the hair, the 80s hair,
yes, I
86 hair.
did.
Right,
I said,
right.
God bless. I look pretty good. I mean, and the page, you go, oh, and then I go, and a couple of times I say, you know what, that one's a little too Buddy Hackett. Uh, I don't know what you did there. Far be it from me to correct your artwork, but maybe shave my cheeks down a little bit. Because some of them look more
Buddy
like me, some
Hackett.
of them did not. And by the way, even that, it
It's
doesn't
fine.
have to look like me, but it can't look conspicuously. I was like Barbara Stanwyck. Maybe change it.
It was so good. Look, you mentioned it, TV show. Like I gotta jump. Look, you jumped ahead. I want to talk about the stand up. I want to talk about some other
Whatever
things,
you
but
want.
but we're in that aliens world now. But Marvel, DC, or sorry, Marvel, Disney, Fox, they own everything. You mentioned a TV show. You know Paul Reiser sitting there know that there's a Marvel TV animated series called What If. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know that? You do know that.
Yes.
Okay. Is that why on the comic book it's titled What If? Because we are you going to
You know,
voice this? Is this a live action? And the comic end, spoiler alert, it's like the end and the beginning. It's like
yeah, we have. I don't. They do. Leon and Adam and Hans have a great idea for where this goes next.
right.
Um, Marvel did not pick up a second series, which it was disappointing because we were ready to go. Um,
Okay.
but they, from the beginning, it went into the what if canon. I mean, it was,
Right.
that's that
What
I
if
did
Burke
not
had
know that.
lived? For people that don't haven't read it, it's what if Burke had lived? When we watch Aliens, the alien comes out at him, but we don't
Right,
see the body.
right,
We
right.
assume he died, but
But
there's something that happens in the film. Right.
even if I had clearly died, I think in the world of what if, you can say, what if Lincoln
What if
hadn't,
he hadn't?
right.
Right.
But so what if some of the other comics that are in the what if world? I mean, forgive me for not knowing.
Oh, they do that. Well, the animated series they've done the Agent Carter, like they've taken some of the stuff we've seen in the movie world, the MCU, Thor, Agent Carter. They've done those, and then what if this happened? So that's the
Right,
animated series. What
right.
if
Well, that could happen. I
yeah,
guess that's a decision that could be made, and in which case I would voice Burke. But
you would
the
voice
original,
it. Okay,
but
live
the original idea
action.
was, but the original idea was a live action for me to be
Yeah,
in, which The Office in
and
space. I mean, I love a short pitch. It's like, got it.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, I
you
saw
know,
that as it's playing out. All the coworkers and
yeah,
there's even
yeah,
like the world's greatest boss Morgan involved.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was
Live
Leon. But yeah,
action? Any
Leon had
chance
a
of
lot of
that?
fun. He said, "Well, we're still toying with it. We're still playing with the idea."
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, Leon had great dialogue and great story. But then he would have little things that just really tickled me, like the helmet, the little Devo helmet on a bicycle. I went, "That's really funny." And then these great artists, these Marvel artists, who were just brilliant,
Oh,
and they would make
it's
it
good
come to life.
stuff.
Yeah.
I got to ask you about stand-up comedy. First of all, what kind of kid were you growing up in New York? Like you not comic books,
Korean. I
not
was a
some.
Korean child.
Why did I even bother asking the question? I'm not even
But
sure why I
what
bothered
kind of
asking that.
child? What kind of child? I was a kid who
Music, a
played.
little music, right?
I was
In your
music.
background?
I played piano. I was funny. I was sort of the class clown, um, but I was pretty tame. I remember learning really early that if you're too funny, you get thrown out of class. Now you got no room to play. There's no audience, so you got to
Okay.
be conservative and calculated, and
Work
if
the room.
possible, get the teacher to laugh. I've told this story on a couple of podcasts before, but I got my good buddy Billy Grunfest, who's was a comedian, and then he opened up the Comedy Cellar, which was the comedy club in New York, which was, anyways, we've been buddies for 50, 60 years, 50 something years. And we met on the first day of high school, and we were kindred spirits. We both loved George Carlin and Richard Pryor and Mel Brooks. So we would love to make each other laugh, even if we didn't make anybody else laugh. We would. So in high school, we had biology class, like seventh period. And we had a friend who had the same teacher third period. So we would literally do a homework over lunch in fifth period. We'd find out what was being covered, and then we would plan what would be funny to say to interrupt and be. So one day we're doing human anatomy, and she said she brings in a skeleton, and she rolls it in. And it was like a. So we said, okay, I tell you what. So when she brings it in, right before I go, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say red skeleton, and then they'll bring the skeleton. That's gonna be really funny. So we had planned a joke, right? So this is why I've never been a successful comedian. Guys say, don't try to make the band laugh. Make the audience laugh, dummy. Don't try for the inside joke to make the band laugh or the one guy in the back. So I had this joke planned that she was going to roll in the skeleton, and I was going to go, ladies and gentlemen, red skeleton. Well, by time seventh period came around, I was getting tired of that joke, and I said, I'm going to make Billy laugh. So she opens the door, she rolls in the skeleton, and I say, ladies and gentlemen, red buttons, which makes no sense unless you were expecting red skeleton. If you were expecting red skeleton, that's very hit. So he's laughing hysterically in the back. I mean, and everyone's looking at me like, what's wrong with him? And I went, that's why I'll never play the big rooms, because you're trying to make the back of the room laugh.
If math is hard, but if my math is correct, this is the 50th anniversary of the first time you hit a stage of the stand-up. So you're 18.
Yeah, that's right. 19.
Is this
exactly,
correct?
Exactly. 1974. Wow, I haven't even thought of that. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, that's how old I am. 50 years of anything.
Yeah. So is that mind blowing, or is that? It seems like it was yesterday.
Also,
do you remember hitting the stage first time?
I don't want to make a big deal of everything, but it's also the 65th anniversary of me learning to pee standing up.
Yeah. Well, that was my next question. So you jumped ahead.
We got that out of the way. So 50th. First time I did it stand up, I was 18, my freshman year of college, between freshman and sophomore year, and I went into the city. We lived just outside the city, and in New York, and I went on audition night, and I got on at like 1:30 in the morning or something, and I did my 5 minutes, and it was terrible.
Do you remember it?
But I do.
What was your killer joke? What was your
if only I had one. By the way, I was doing
at 18. What was a killer joke?
I was doing some of the stuff I was doing that Billy and I did at lunch. I stole stuff from him.
The red buttons. You got the red buttons in.
I didn't get red buttons in, but he would do offbeat impressions. I don't do famous people. I do impressions of vegetables. Ready? No. Cauliflower.
No.
Asparagus. And wow. It's just stupid shit. But by the way, you could do that if you were real, if you were Jim Carrey, if you were Andy Kaufman, you could get away.
Yeah.
I just actually thought it was brilliant, funny, stupid. So, but you're protected at 18. You have a shell of, it's like babies can breathe underwater because they have an embryo. You have as a comedian, newbie, you have an embryo of naivete and ignorance. You don't know that you're not good. You think you're doing okay. Years later, you look back and go, "Oh my God! Who let me on to do that?
How did that guy get nominated for all those Emmys? How did that guy?"
So we bury those tapes. But the interesting thing was, I did it on a lark. I thought, I love comedy, and those comedy clubs were just coming into being known, and a couple of people had gotten famous from those clubs, Freddie Prinze and David Brenner and Gabe Kaplan. So in my head, like, you go there and then it's revealed to you. The path will be revealed. So I didn't have a plan, but I'm going to go there. And I went on one time for 5 minutes. But what was very telling to me was when I went back to school in September, and people go, "Hey, how was your summer? What'd you do this summer?" And I just honestly said, "Well, I was a comedian for 5 minutes. I was a comedian for 5 minutes." But it was so fine to me. And I so loved putting on that cloak of definition that I went,
it's almost like a superhero.
Yeah, but it just somehow, without even knowing it fully, I can look back and realize now, but I thought, oh, that's what I must want to do, because it felt good and I loved saying it.
Your last special was 30 years ago. I mean, why hit the stage again now?
And I like to space them out, Joe. I don't like to
leave the crowd wanting more.
Exactly.
That might be taken a little too far. How tough was that to get back on the bike again?
Well, Well, the special, I've been back. I took a long time off, not by any great design. I just kind of, when Mad About You started in the early 90s, I was busy with that. So I didn't just have time or the mental capacity to do stand up. And then when it was over, I was kind of enjoying being home. So I added it up. It was like, oh, it's been 20 years since I was out working on stand up. So about 10 years ago, I went back in, or maybe 12 years ago now. And it took me about a year just to get the muscle back. Like the difference was interesting. Having been on TV, the audiences in the clubs would go, "Oh, look who just dropped in. That's cool. I know that guy from Mad About You." That
Yeah.
last year gives you about 10 seconds of leeway. And then they look at you like, "So now what do you want to say?" Oh, I don't have that. I just think you'd be
Oof.
happy to see me. So you go
Oof.
home and you write 2 minutes, and then you get 4 minutes, and then you get, so building material, but more importantly, building the muscle and the brain. I had to rewire the brain, like, oh, because comedians, you're thinking and you're moving
Yeah.
parts and you're making decisions. So that took me a while. And then I just been, working, but I kind of was I was called a gentleman's pace. I was never touring. I go out every other weekend. I would do a gig
You
or
weren't
something.
Leno. You weren't
No,
Leno
I was
or
not Leno. I
Seinfeld
wasn't
hitting it. Right,
one of
right,
those guys all the time.
right.
But then, and people say, "Oh, you should do a special." And then I thought, well, there's the silly comedian brain go, yeah, but then I got to throw out that material once it's recorded for posterity and people seeing it. But I thought at a certain point, it just felt like, well, you can't really claim to be in the game if you're not in the game. You got to put it out there and put your hour out there and then work on the next hour. So I sort of, at some point I said, it's time. And we found a beautiful theater in Denver. I didn't want to do it in LA. I didn't want to do it in New York. It's like, Denver's a great comedy town. And they found this beautiful theater. It was like 1,000 seats. It was just right size, intimate enough, but
Yeah.
beautiful. And it came out really well. And I was very pleased. So, but it was also funny, to me, I, and some people think I'm being disingenuous, but like I didn't plan any of these great things that have happened to me. I didn't, I wasn't in high school thinking, boy, I want to be on a sitcom someday. I want to be in a big thriller movie. I just wanted to be a stand-up. I wanted to be, George Carlin, Robert Klein, Richard Pryor. Those are my heroes. So that was first and foremost. Just never mind the fact that I took 20 years off. But so many generations have passed, and then I've done so many things that have been high visibility. People, I would hear from so many friends that their kids said, "Wait a minute, that doctor from Stranger Things is going to go out and try to be funny." Oh my gosh, I've been gone a long time. So I'll
Yeah.
see 20-year-olds in the audience, and I go, "Oh, Stranger Things fans." So yeah, I'm not a doctor, you know that.
I played one on
But I
TV,
thought
but
that was part of it too. I needed to sort of, as I say, stake my claim and be in the game and put my money where my mouth is. Like, yeah, well, put your special out there.
did you feel that comedy decades ago, stand-up comedy decades ago, different than stand-up comedy 2024?
No, I didn't.
Or can you say, no, it's not?
It's not. I mean, I
Okay.
get why people say that. And yes, we're all
Right.
much more, you watch even guys that you respect. It's like, oh, that joke wouldn't work today. It's like, yes, yeah,
Right.
for sensitivity, which by the way, I'm all for. It's like, how much do you need to be insensitive? It's like, yeah,
Right. But yours was never that
yeah,
edge.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I was never poking the bear. I was never trying to push
Right.
people or push the envelopes. I was always doing, my own limitations or skill or whatever was I only know how to talk about me, and
Mhm.
right when just around the time before I got married, when my wife moved out and we were living together, suddenly I was writing and doing better comedy. I went, I think this is what I do. I mean, it wasn't like I found my brand, but it's like, oh, this is not just arbitrary. I have something to say here. Like, suddenly you're in a house with another person and there's a woman, and oh, how come I remember the bit I used to do, like, oh, for 32 years I got dressed. I never had a problem. And now I get to the door and I hear, you're not going to wear that, are you? It's like, how did I get this far? It's like, okay, there's a lot. This is rich. This is funny to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it, but that really became my thing. As my wife points out, she said, without me, you have no act. I said, believe me, I know that.
That's fair.
That's
Yes.
very fair.
Yeah.
So what was I going to say? So yeah, so that's always been what I do. And in fact, when I got back into stand up, whatever it is, 12 years ago, what struck me is how much it had not changed. The act of doing it, not the content. My content was whatever it was going to be. But and I have a pretty good editing head. I'm not going to say something like, well, that's offensive. That's going to, and sometimes even though I know I'm not thinking a bad thing, but it sounds like the 47 other guys who were maybe being misogynistic. But you know what? Maybe I just shouldn't say it. Not because there's a cultural movement, but like, I don't want to lose the audience. I want them to go, yeah, we're with you. So I have a pretty good sense of what works for me and what doesn't. But what struck me was how much it hadn't changed. How much it felt, how exciting it felt to be on stage, the thrill of trying out a new bit, driving down for an hour to go to a club to do 5 minutes and driving an hour home to go, yeah, that new joke worked. It's like, that's great. It's like, there were not that many things that were that exciting. At 60, there aren't a lot of things that feel like being 18, but stand up felt like that.
And the time we have left, I know we're running out of time here, but I got to ask you about something I don't think you're asked about that often. Popeye. You wrote a
Oh my
Popeye
God.
feature film script, Popeye's Voyage, The Quest for Pappy, back in 2004. Were you a Popeye fan growing up?
Not conspicuously. I watched it. I
All right.
enjoyed it. I didn't get into the mythology of it. I can't even remember how it happened, but I
You weren't
did
a
that,
fan of
and
the
I felt
Robin Williams film, the live action?
I had seen it. It didn't.
All
It
right.
did. It wasn't. No, but I had no idea. It must have been. What year was that?
So
90s.
2004. 2004, produced through
2004.
Nuance Productions, co-written
Yes.
by Paul Reiser.
Who's the
Nothing.
co-writer? Oh, I don't remember the other. So
Oh, I think they took your script and flippy flopped it into something else. But
yeah, but I
all
remember
right,
enjoying it because I was really going. My research, I was watching the really early black and white ones,
the
and
30s, right?
I started, and I remember even there, it was basically I was the Popeye. Maybe that's where they came to it. It was make the Popeye olive oil the marriage thing.
All
It was like
right.
that was the heart of it. But yes,
Okay.
good luck finding it. Did they make it? They must. I don't even know if they made it. I don't know.
It's out there. Yeah, it's out there. I've watched it. It's
No need
cool.
to watch it. Yeah, you don't need to see it.
I'm going to wrap up here. You mentioned them. Stranger Things, fifth and final season next year. Can you tell us anything, or do you have to like tell us and then kill us?
I would. I'm going to kill you first, and then
Oh,
tell you.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Do the other
Before I
way.
even ask the question.
No, we're sworn to
Why
secrecy. You
wait?
can't say nothing. I will
Okay.
say it is
But you've had
nasty.
fun in that universe. Like,
I had great fun. I didn't understand it. Yeah, let me tell you something.
we keep
So I am so,
expecting you to flip to be like Burke, and then all of a sudden you're like
no,
helpful. What the heck?
no, I I I'm so I like that's what I'm saying. Like Mad About You or the thing about my folks, a movie with Peter, or The Problem with People, this movie in Ireland, which you can watch on iTunes or Amazon. Uh, that's my world. I like little small things that
Okay.
right. So I got invited to be on The Boys. I had not heard of The Boys. I didn't even
Fifth and
know it.
final season coming up. I was going to ask you about that too. Right.
So I asked Leon, my cultural canary in the coal mine. I go, Leon, you ever heard of the show The Boys? He goes, yeah. Why? I said, because they want me to do an episode or two.
The
I said,
legend.
I played a legend. He said, I said, what do you think of the show? And he said, and this was his quote, oh, it's great, comma, and you'll hate it. And I went, what? Why do you say that? He goes, I know you. You're gonna hate it. I go, you don't know me. And I watch it. I go, oh my God. It was just
It's a
so over.
lot.
There's a lot. And then I stuck with it. I went, okay, I get it. They're not being casual about it. That's their brand. They're just so graphic and so
Right.
grotesque and
Yeah.
really good at it. So I remember the part I had to like, I turned it down because a couple of things I said, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. I can't say that. And they go, what if we take that out and we change that? I went, okay. And then I had great fun,
Yeah.
playing basically, the Bob Evans of that world, the cigar
Right.
smoke deck. It was great
The
fun.
Robert Evans, the producer of the 1980 Popeye movie, by the way. So
There you
there's your full
go.
circle moment.
Let me
So
tell you what I learned from The Boys, and if you watch it,
yes, yes,
changed my life. Smoking jackets. I don't have one of my own, but when
yeah,
I put that on, I went, "This is the greatest thing." It's
yeah.
a whole thick, wrappy thing just to smoke a cigar. Who thought of that?
You're an
You don't
80s
need.
producer now. You're a
You
producer
don't
from the
need. Yeah,
80s.
you don't think you need a special outer garment. Just smoke.
Yeah.
No, put it
Turns
on,
out you
and it's
do.
like, oh, it turns out you do.
Turns out you do. Can you tell us anything about Stranger? You're in Stranger Things season 5. Yes, you
And
can
I
tell us
can't talk
that.
about it. Maybe, maybe not. The boys, they have
You
season. They haven't started season 5. I don't
right,
think.
but you'll be in season
I
5.
think. I think so. They've told
Yeah.
me. I would be. So I hope, but who knows? They could be lying.
Okay.
They could change their mind. I could
Yeah.
price myself right out of the business. Anything could
You
happen.
won't. We
You know,
love us some Paul
that'll be
Reiser. We
too
need us
fun.
some Paul Reiser. The stand-up special, the problem with people, what else? I mean,
You
everything. How
guys
can we
said,
follow you?
oh, yeah, okay. You know what? Well, just watch those two: The Problem with People and the stand-up special, Life, Death, and
That's
Restoration.
it.
If that's not enough, if you need more of me, there's a really funny movie. It's coming out next week. Also, it's called The Gutter. It's a bowling movie. It's so
Okay.
stupid, like Dumb and Dumber funny. But like,
And
and I read like page 7. I go, I'm in. This is so stupid and so funny. It's really
and
good.
can we see Mad About You? It's on Amazon, but I
I
was
don't
on
know
Amazon
where it
Prime, but
is.
it's not. It's not. And the reboot. We want to see the reboot. How do we see can you?
I periodically
Okay.
I get so frustrated and I make a call. I go, where is it? I go, we'll get back to you. And then I don't know where it
Yeah.
is.
It's
For
not on
some reason,
Amazon Prime.
it's you can watch it on something.
Some
People send it to me on what is it? Arrow? Is that a thing?
Sure. I don't even know.
It's
We'll
you
find
can
it. You
find it.
tell me,
Or
I'll tell them
you'll find it. I don't. I wish I had an answer for you. But in the
all the
meanwhile, go
things.
watch The Problem with People. Go watch Life, Death, and Rice Pudding. And then people say, why is rice pudding in there? I go, watch it and you'll see.
Peter
Hey,
Falk. There's your
it,
tease. Peter Falk.
it is. It's been great talking to you. Thank you for having
Been
me.
great talking to you too. Thank you so much for joining me on Comic Book Central, and thank you so much for everything you've done over the years.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
It's nice of you to say. Take care.
Thanks.